There are now over 80,000 cases of the coronavirus. This graphic says in 36 countries. That was true as of a couple of hours ago, but now Algeria is reporting its first case, so the figure is up to 37. The vast majority of cases are, of course, in China, but there are now significant clusters in South Korea, Japan, and in Iran, where there have been close to 100 cases, and the death toll is 15. The outbreak is centred around the city of Qom, close to Tehran, and this man, the deputy health minister, became involved in a political row. Yesterday he said he'd resign if allegations that the government was hiding the true death toll in Qom were true. Well, now he's become part of the story because he's got the virus, and he was involved in the most extraordinary press conference. Here he is, on the left, taking his glasses off, mopping his brow, looking decidedly unwell. He was telling those who had gathered that he doesn't believe in quarantine, that it's an old measure from World War I that doesn't work. The other man on the stage may have had a view on that. But anyway, here's what the minister is saying.
میخواستم به اطلاعتون برسونم که منم کرونایی شدم. من از دیروز تب داشتم. تست اولیه‌ام آخر شب مثبت شد. از دیشب خودم رو در محلی ایزوله کردم. چند دقیقه پیش به من گفتن که تست نهایی قطعی شده. دارم درمان رو شروع میکنم. حال عمومی بد نیست، خوبم. یه مقدار کوفتگی دارم، تب داشتم که انشالله کم میشه. حتما ظرف چند هفته آینده در مقابله با این ویروس پیروز خواهیم شد. مطمئن باشید که ما کرونا رو شکست میدیم. مطمئن باشید.
So that's the Deputy Health Minister in Iran who has the virus. We've also heard from the President.
A disaster has happened in Iran, a virus spreading in Iran and has involved 40 countries in the world. And it will spread in all the countries around the world too. It is an uninvited and unpleasant guest, which is travelling everywhere. We should overcome the problem and we shouldn't panic.
And then there's Mike Pompeo. Clearly the US Secretary of State isn't a neutral observer on what's happening, but he's had this to say.
The United States is deeply concerned by information indicating the Iranian regime may have suppressed vital details about the outbreak in that country. As of yesterday afternoon, Iran was second only to China in coronavirus deaths. All nations, including Iran, should tell the truth about the coronavirus and cooperate with international aid organizations.
Well, next I want to play you a fascinating exchange between BBC Persian's Rana Brahimpour and my colleague Simon McCoy on how Iranians are viewing this virus.
They don't trust the politicians to the degree that they even cast doubt about what the Deputy Health Minister has claimed. They say they're lying that they have corona. They want to, this is a propaganda.
They think he's not got it.
No. They say that he's lying, and in 3 days he's going to come out to say that, oh, you see, I'm recovered. It's not serious. Don't worry. So the level of mistrust towards the Iranian politicians is so deep that they wouldn't believe anything that comes out of their mouth.
He didn't look well, it has to be said.
No, I agree with you. He didn't look well, and he's not the only one. An MP from Tehran, Mahmoud Sadeghi, has also confirmed on Twitter that his test result came out positive, and they had a sitting yesterday at the Parliament. So it looks like that it's going to every.
So every MP is now going to ask or self-isolate, or are they self-isolate?
If they do, that's the problem. Many of these politicians and the Iranian public, they're so religious, they think that death is in the hands of God. And they say, I'm not going to die if I'm not meant to die. So they don't believe in all these scientific measures to contain the virus.
Now, let me take you to a number of locations around the world. First, from Iran to Spain's Canary Islands, because this hotel in Tenerife has been locked down after a visiting Italian doctor tested positive. Hundreds of tourists have been confined to the hotel grounds, and the BBC's spoken to one of them.
We've just got to stay in the hotel. We can't leave the hotel. We can walk around the grounds, sit on the sun lounges, but there's a cordon around the hotel with the police.
There's also been a confirmed case in Barcelona. Let's hear from the Spanish health minister.
There are 3 imported cases. There is no confirmed community transmission so far in our country in Spain, and therefore we continue to think that we are in a scenario of containment of coronavirus in Spain, and that the most effective is to strengthen all these measures for early detection.
In Barcelona on the Spanish coast. Next we shift to the Alps and the Austrian city of Innsbruck in the east of Austria, because this hotel has been locked down. You can see police streaming into the building. People have been blocked in and no one is going in or out. That's because an Italian receptionist working there has the virus. And indeed, Italy is right at the centre of this story. 11 people have now died there from the coronavirus. There have been more than 300 other confirmed cases. That's the largest number of people infected in any European country. And the outbreak is centred around 2 northern regions. Several towns within them are locked down. Bethany Bells in Milan.
New cases of the virus have been reported in Sicily, in Tuscany and in Liguria, but the hotspot remains these cluster of towns in northern Italy, places that have been quarantined as the authorities are seeking to try and contain the virus. Now, the government has appealed for calm. It's asking people not to panic, but it is facing questions as to whether hospitals in these regions handled the cases in the correct way. Here in Milan, there's been an impact on tourism. One of the city's main tourist attractions, the Duomo, the cathedral behind me, has been closed to visitors and no services are taking place. And today is Mardi Gras, is Shrove Tuesday, what should be the climax of the Venice Carnival. But those celebrations there have also been cancelled because of fears of the virus.
Italian sports being affected. Here's BBC Sport covering it on its website. 5 Serie A matches are going to be played behind closed doors. The Six Nations rugby tournament's also under pressure. There are doubts about Italy's match against Ireland in Dublin on the 7th of March, and England are due to face Italy in Rome a week later. Both games are still on for the moment, but that situation is being monitored. Well, let's switch from Europe now and focus on Japan, because a 4th person who was on board that cruise ship, the Diamond Princess, has died from the virus. The ship was quarantined for more than 3 weeks in Yokohama. Not so far from Yokohama is Tokyo. The authorities there are keeping a very close eye on the situation because, of course, the Olympics are scheduled for July. Now, Associated Press sports team got an important scoop earlier. They spoke to the International Olympic Committee member Dick Pound, who says Tokyo Olympic organisers have until late May to see if this virus is under control. If not, you're probably looking at a cancellation, which of course would be an enormous story. Let's hear from Jenny Hill, who's in Japan.
The authorities here are growing increasingly concerned about a rising number of cases. Until now, the picture in Japan has largely focused on the cruise ship, the Diamond Princess, which is still moored, incidentally, just down the coast in the port of Yokohama, although the vast majority of passengers have now disembarked after well over 2 weeks in quarantine. But separate to the 700 or so cases linked to that ship, the Japanese authorities now say there are around 150 reported cases elsewhere in the country. They're dotted all over, and the concern really for the health authorities here is that they're really struggling, as are of course many foreign governments, to try and work out how and where those people became infected. It is an increasing problem. It's a big headache, of course, for the Japanese authorities, because in 5 months' time Tokyo is due to host the 2020 Olympics. At the moment, the health ministry here has said that it's too early to start talking about cancellations, but they are concerned and they are now saying that the next couple of weeks will be crucial as to whether the outbreak here can be contained. And of course they're looking over the water at South Korea.
Well, Jenny's talking about South Korea. Let's focus on it next, because it has almost 1,000 confirmed infections and 11 people have died. Over half of the cases are connected to the city of Daegu, and in particular members of a religious sect, some of whom gather in this building. Authorities now plan to test all of the members of the sect, and there are more than 200,000 of them. Well, President Moon Jae-in has been in Daegu.
The situation is very grave, and therefore the declaration of a special disaster zone is not enough. What's important is time and speed. There must be a clear turning point witnessed this week in the upward trend in the number of infections.
And Laura Bicker is also in Daegu.
I've been here for 3 to 4 days now, and all I've heard is staff trying to reassure me that they're trying to get this outbreak under control. But today is the first day where I've heard medics kind of look at me and go, we're not sure we can do that. The reason is because this is becoming far more widespread.
And while the coronavirus outbreak is certainly a global story now, China, of course, remains at the very centre of it. The vast majority of cases are there, and these are pictures that have come in from Beijing today. You can see very, very quiet on the streets, very, very quiet on public transport. Here's the World Health Organization with its assessment of the situation in China.
We don't know what's going to happen next in China. We've got it right down like this. We think we can manage, and there will not be another Wuhan. We know how to manage this disease now in all the parts of the country. If it went to zero and disappeared, that'd be great, but that's not what they're planning for. What they're planning for is this could remain for some time, maybe some time until there's a vaccine, so we will have the capacities to be able to manage it and run society and economy and everything else the way we need to, and not lock people down to try and manage this.
Now, there are also reports that Chinese and American scientists have developed different vaccines for the coronavirus and now want to test them. We need to be cautious here. Without full clinical trials, we can't be sure how effective or safe these vaccines would be. Let's get the response of the BBC's global health correspondent, Tulip Mzumba.
So there are a couple of dozen companies all around the world racing to find a vaccine for this new coronavirus. There are, for example, a number in the US, there are a couple here, also in Australia. All of those at the moment, the most advanced, are in animal trials, so that is still quite early days. This is still record timing, really. This was a virus that was only discovered, first identified, I should say, in January. Within a few hours of it being identified for the first time, China put the genetic sequence, the genetic code of this virus out for researchers to look at, and then they immediately started trying to come up with a vaccine. So this has happened in record time. There are a number of hurdles they have to cross before this can be used much more widely. There are a number of trials they have to go through, so they have to go to human trials first, and the phase 1, they're called, of the human trials, those are likely to start in the early spring, potentially, maybe a little bit later, and that is where they'll test the vaccine for safety and to see how effective it is on a small number of people, maybe a couple of dozen, something like that, maybe more like 50. And then they will go into larger human trials. If they are a success, they will go into larger human trials. The ideal conditions in which to test a vaccine is in the middle of an outbreak, where there are lots of people who can be given the vaccine, and researchers can look at how effective it is. So the race really is on. It's unlikely that a vaccine for this outbreak will be ready before the end of the year, maybe early next year. We are still some time off, but researchers have said this is a virus which is unlikely to go away anytime soon, even if it really comes right down in terms of the number of cases towards the end of the year, or potentially later this year when it warms up a little bit, and perhaps it might be easier for this for us to contain this virus. Even though it might not be ready for this outbreak, this virus is likely to return, and it will be ready for future outbreaks, or at least that is the hope.
Now, as you'll know if you're a regular viewer, every day we pull together all of the most important information on the coronavirus, however long it takes, and we then put those reports together as one clip onto the BBC News YouTube page. So if you ever missed the programme and want a full roundup of where we've got to with this story, you'll find it on the BBC News YouTube channel, and if you want to watch back, you can see previous clips that we've posted over the last few days.